DoorDash's funny math, or the gig geezer attempting to extend his winning streak to 25 days? All that on this segment of the Gig Geezer. It is Saturday evening, April 23rd, 2022, and I have just started my second half hustle, in which I accepted a Grubhub order from Hooters, and I'm basically at the just like right down the street from the restaurant. That order is for like $11, could be $10, but $11, and it's going to a place where I've delivered to previously on at least 3 other occasions. My first half hustle ended at $96.71. That was done in 4 hours. I actually was at $21.21 after about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes before I managed to stack together a DoorDash and a Uber Eats order that kind of got me out the ditch. And then I ended the hustle with stacking a point pickup and a roadie order, which got me to the $96. Well, perhaps not surprisingly, the Grubhub order at Hooters is not ready. Hooters is just one of those places where they've got one-armed cooks with no thumbs that work back there, and it just gets, and the scenario is even worse when it's a Grubhub order, because Grubhub has the worst coordinating of logistics in terms of the timing of orders. So I was there a good 10 minutes. I'm right down the street from a DoorDash order that I also accepted from Jasmine Buffett. It's showing for $8.50, but according to Para, it says that it is going to pay $10.50. So as I am approaching Jasmine Buffett to enter their parking lot, what I hope to do is circle back to Hooters and hopefully stack this order, because both orders are within reasonable distance of each other, and we'll see what happens. I've got both the DoorDash and the Grubhub orders in hand, and now I'm going to drop off the DoorDash order first and then go and drop off the Grubhub order. But meanwhile, what I want to talk about is some interesting information that I saw based on DoorDash's fourth quarter statement to its shareholders. One of the things it talked about was that there were at least 6 million people who completed at least one DoorDash order in 2021. And among us 6 million people who have completed at least one DoorDash order, 99% of the drivers, according to DoorDash's metrics and analysis, work or drive for DoorDash 30 hours or less each week. Now, the other number among the 6 million people was that DoorDash drivers earned more than $11 billion and worked more than 456 million active hours. Now, the active hours is what they actually going to base all their other numbers on. And for what it's worth, active hours is the time that DoorDash calculates between the moment that you accept the order to the moment that you mark the order as delivered. That's what active hours are. Your dash hours is the time that you've been on the app, and what most people count in terms of your actual earnings per hour. So more than likely, when you look at your DoorDash earnings tab, you'll see that there's a discrepancy between active hours and dash time. And so I defy anyone to base their earnings on active time. I defy anyone, because I will say it outright before we get any further, that is misleading information. But anyway, so with those numbers in hand, if you divide 6 into 11, I believe it was 11.6 though, but either number, 6 into 11, that gets you 1.74. If you divide 6 into 11.6, if I'm not mistaken, it is 1.83. And then, so if you divide that, you get 1.74. And then what you'd have to do to figure out what a person makes made supposedly last year, the average person, according to DoorDash, you multiply 1.74 by 1,000, and that equals $1,740 that the average person, the person who drives or does DoorDash 30 hours or less per week, $1,740. That average person also does DoorDash 72 hours in a year, or about 1.38 hours a week. Average earnings per week is about $33.80, or about $34 in a week. Now, to figure out, according to DoorDash, based on active hours, you would divide 1.38 into 33.8, or whatever, 33 point, and that should get you about $24.25 an hour. Now, I have to ask you, do you make $24.25 an hour? And if you do, that's good. But if you compare that to some numbers based on ZipRecruiter, the top percentile gig driver, the person who does gig work for DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, Instacart, and the like, the top percentile person averages about $25 an hour, or about $52,000 a year. According to DoorDash's numbers, that translates into about $50,400. The average person who actually puts in full-time work, the average person. So I would ask you, if you did gig work full-time last year, did you claim on your taxes before expenses on your Schedule C? Did you earn over $50,000? Let's just use that number. And if you did, good for you. But I'm certain that you would beg to defer with DoorDash in terms of some discrepancies. Now, DoorDash also says that drivers have made 40% more than what they did from 2019 to 2021. Well, okay, here's that number. According to DoorDash, in 2019, the average driver, based on active time hours worked, earned about $18.54 an hour. Compared to the 2021 number, to $24.25, that is a difference of $6.71. When you divide 1854 by 671, that is an improvement of about 36% and not 40%. Now, you ask, is that massaging the numbers? Is that cooking the books? Is that inflating the numbers? Is it funny math? Or is it just outright lying? It is safe to say, based on the numbers that I'm presenting to you, they're a little misleading. Probably grossly misleading if you ask other people. But moving on. According to ZipRecruiter, the average gig worker makes about $18 an hour, or about $36,565 a year. Those numbers are what the ZipRecruiter says people in my market, Columbia, South Carolina, make. About $18 an hour, $36,565 a year. And in markets like Atlanta and Charlotte, the number is around $44,000 a year. So, now, according to ZipRecruiter, a person in the 75 percentile range makes about $20 an hour, or about $41,000 a year. And the person in the 25 percentile makes about $13 a year, $13 an hour, or about $27,000 a year. Again, I ask you, where do you fall personally in those numbers that I've given you? Okay, I'm going to cut away briefly and just give you an update on at least the orders that I've accepted. Just dropped off the DoorDash order. That order offered $8.25. According to Para, it said it was going to pay $10, not $10.50. And the order actually paid $10. So, not bad to start out. Although I will say earlier today, and I'll even mention yesterday, I had ordered 2 orders total that I accepted from Para and completed, and they did not pay what Para suggested that it was going to pay. Yesterday, April 22nd, I accepted an order from Bojangles. I believe the offer amount was like $8, and Para said that it was going to pay $12.25. Well, I jumped all on that one. The order actually paid $9.50, at least. The order paid $9.50, at least through DoorDash, but the customer actually tipped another $2, so it paid $11.50. So if you just go apples for apples according to apps, Para was off by $2.75, but when you consider the $2 cash tip that the customer gave, it was off by 75 cents. And you're not going to lose any sleep over that. Then earlier today, during the first half hustle, in fact, the first order that I accepted was from a place called Fusion Cucina Latina, which means the fusion Latin cuisine. That order said it was going to pay, it was offering $8.25. Para said it was going to pay $10.50, but the offer paid $8.25. But in my limited experience so far with Para, what I think it's fair to say is that Para is not an exact science, but it's going to give you an indication of what it should pay. And in that respect, use your best instincts. Again, use your best instinct. An even stronger word probably would be, instead of saying using your best instincts, use your best judgment. But from what I can tell though, Para has helped me with some orders in terms of at least helping me make a better decision. On that note, using your best judgment, I believe that is probably the best way to decipher DoorDash's information about driver earnings. As probably your final guideline, use your own statistical information that you may have derived through apps like Gridwise or maybe even Para if it actually provides earnings and all, as your final gospel, because that's going to draw all the information from the apps. But also use your own information, because if you're an astute business person, you can keep up with your own records as well. But use the information provided by DoorDash as maybe a guide, or at worst case, take it for a grain of salt. And use the information provided by ZipRecruiter and other employment sources as also a guide and not gospel as well. All right, so now we're approaching the drop-off for Hooters, which is from Grubhub. And by the way, I also accepted a stacked Uber Eats order from a place called Bad Daddy's, which is right down the street from this drop-off location. Now, one other thing that I want to share as far as some numbers for the week, I have put in just 5 days this week. Actually 5.5 days, because I did not go out for the first half hustle on Thursday. As I kind of shared in another segment of the Gig Geezer, the mind and body just did not go along with things, and so they were not in agreement with me going out, and so I listened to my body. But for the week now, I am, after this first half hustle today, over $1,050. I am on pace to probably do well over $1,300, and it would be a push if I do $1,400. But I'm okay with that. It is what it is. Typically the weeks when I do $1,500 is when I've put in all 7 days, 7.0 days. Weeks that I do $1,400, unless it's a very strong 6 days, it's typically going to take me 6.5 days. So $1,400 may be a little bit of stretch this week. $1,300 is going to be very much realistic. Okay, so we've dropped off both the Grubhub and the DoorDash orders. The Grubhub order paid $10.35, and as I mentioned, the DoorDash order paid $10. So the Gig Geezer starts off this second half hustle at $20.35, and that's after 1 hour, and that's not looking good right now. part of it is because of the time waiting for the Grubhub order. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting in terms of whether I do finish at $200 or more. If I'm able to finish at $200 or more, I will have extended my current winning streak to 25 consecutive days in which I have put in both a first half and a... Okay, so we've dropped off this stacked Uber Eats order for $15.80. And while en route to dropping off the second half of the Uber Eats stacked order, I accepted a $9.27 waiter/bite squad order from a place called Publico, which is an area that is famously known as the 5 Points areas, where a lot of the kids, college kids, congregate and hang out and so forth. And it's also the area where the famous group Hootie and the Blowfish kind of first did a lot of their gigs. And for good luck, if the Publico order is ready and I'm able to drop this off in a rather expeditious manner, I also have in hand, where I've accepted, that is, a Grubhub order from a place called Casa Linda for $10 and change. Now, Casa Linda is a little bit of a wild card because Casa Linda is notoriously slow, but if you give them enough lead time, then you probably will catch them when they just put out the order. Alrighty, Publico is in hand, and so I am in good position to also get the Grubhub Casa Linda order, and that should put me around $55 in actually about 1.75 hours. So that puts me at least close to respectability for the second half hustle pace. I know it's been a while since I've kind of checked in with everything, and this may be the last one that I do for this hustle, but to get you caught up, the stacked Grubhub order for $15.80 paid $15.81. I mentioned about delivering the waiter/bite squad order for $9.27 from Publico, and then there was the $10.41 Grubhub order from Casa Linda, and from there I accepted a stacked Grubhub order for $13.56 or $58 from China Garden or Express China, and I just dropped off both of those orders. In the process of dropping off those orders, I accepted an Instacart for $27 and change, 33 items from Publix. If this order pays $25, that's going to put the gig user around $95 for the second half hustle and about $1.90 for the entire day. Meaning that all I will need is one, maybe two orders, and to reach the daily goal of $200 and extend my winning streak, my current winning streak, to 25 days or more in which I've put in. Alrighty, so we are leaving Public. And if memory serves me correct, I managed to get all but one or two items. And so I'm guessing that this order should pay me somewhere in the neighborhood of $26. And if it pays me $26, that puts me right at around $95 for the second half hustle in just over 3 hours right now. But more than likely, by the time I drop off this order, I'll be about 3.5 hours into this hustle, needing one more order to get me at $200 for today. It's been a grind. This hustle has been a grind pretty much from the beginning. In fact, the first half hustle was pretty much a grind as well. But that's the way it is these days. If you're gonna be a champion, sometimes you have to put in the grind. This is something that I gotta really put out there. Now, a lot of times, a lot of folk, when they first started doing these videos or uploading their content on YouTube, particularly the gig economy folk, they probably started when there was a pandemic. And the pandemic made it easy. I mean, hey, all you had to do is turn on the app, and you're going to be bombarded with a lot of opportunities, and you could easily make $250 in a day. $200 you can do half sleep. But now we're in 2022. There isn't. I mean, the talk of pandemic has significantly abated, and what you're finding is that people are not spending the type of money as they did 2 years ago, for whatever reason. And the opportunities, the quality of opportunities aren't as plentiful as they were even a year ago. I've said this before. And so the hustle has become a grind. And the question is, how hard are you going to put in your grind? And I think a lot of folk were spoiled by the pandemic. Now, I started doing food delivery before the pandemic. I'd been into the gig economy obviously since 2016. So I already knew what it was like to put in a grind doing ride sharing. And I knew what it was like to have to migrate to other markets in order to make the same money, if not more. So I guess you'd say, personally, I've been battle tested. The gig geezer's been battle tested. And so it just becomes a matter of your resolve. What are you going to do to accomplish your goals? And the mark of a champion is not always the one who wins pretty. The mark of a champion is the one who finds ways to win. They find ways to win even when there's adversity. I'm not trying to over dramatize today. I'm really not. But when you're out here enough, you also can sense how things are going, how things may unfold. And I've been sensing that this grind for quite a while now, and I've shared that in recent segments of the Gig Geezer. So when I get back with y'all next time, it's going to be to wrap up this hustle. As you can tell, it is daylight, and it is a very seasonal day here in the Columbia metropolitan area. And I'm back to wrap up yesterday evening's hustle from April 23rd, 2022. Now, where I left off, I was en route to dropping off the Instacart order. And not long after that, I accepted a DoorDash order offer of $8.50 from Papa John Pizza. Why did I accept it? It's because that order was actually in the same subdivision / development of the Instacart drop-off. In fact, it was about 3 minutes away. Well, the Instacart order paid slightly more than what it was offered. It paid $27.27, if memory serves me correct. And then upon dropping off the Instacart order, I learned that it paid $11.50, which was actually more than what Para suggested it would pay. Para suggested it would pay $9.50. So with the Instacart order, that brought my daily total to over $204 and extending the Gig Geezer's winning streak now to 25 consecutive days in which I have earned $200 more working both a first and second half hustle. Well, the other significance of yesterday's hustle in terms of winning ugly is that I earned money on 7 apps. All 7 apps that I normally would scan: DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, Instacart, Waiter/Bite Squad, Point Pickup, and Roadie. So the hustle continues, the grind continues. And with that, this is another segment of the Gig Geezer. I'm Inwood Lane, and as always, may your hustle continue.